What is up, guys, gals, and all you other game fanatics? It is I, Josh, and with me today is my partner in crime, my sleepy partner in crime, Tom. How are you feeling, dude?
Sleepy, hay fevery, and I stayed up till 4:30 in the morning watching the PC gaming show last night.
Now, I just before we jump into this main discussion, I only watched a little bit of it. Was it worth it? Because for everyone in America, they won't understand this. We have to stay up till stupid o'clock just to watch things like the PlayStation conference, which was like 2 a.m., but this went on for longer than most of the other conferences, right? The PC gaming press one.
Yeah, because they told us it was going to start at essentially 1 a.m. And when the stream started, they said, oh, there's an hour countdown. Here's 100 game facts, images. It's like film trivia at the cinema. It was just, But honestly, I was really happy to stay up for it, and it kept me up in the end. So, yeah, it was only at 4:30 that I just like... Oh, last announcement, time to go to bed.
It'd be even better if they had actually shown a little bit more of this game that we're about to talk about at that conference, because I don't think they did. This game's still very hush-hush. We are talking about For Honor, which was announced at the Ubisoft press conference, and it was quite a surprise. Nobody knew about it. It's kind of like when Watch Dogs was announced. Everyone was like, what is this? I must know more. So what For Honor is a 4v4, I believe it's 4v4 for now. I don't know what the actual player count is. I mean, it's really weird because in the gameplay and at the announcement they said 3v3, but from what we've actually seen of the pre-alpha, I think it's 4v4, but it's a MOBA-esque Do we know if it's got a story? Or not?
No. So far, everything looks like it's a multiplayer-based game. It's not a single-player experience.
It's a 4v4 MOBA-inspired Titanfall-esque hack and slash set in the 16th century, I think.
Yeah, so they're going for the whole PvPvE kind of experience, which was also very similar with Halo Warzone as well.
And it's quite interesting that a lot of games that have been announced recently, especially on their multiplayer sides, are all like this, where it's player versus player, but then also having those NPCs that you can work on. I think it's a cool evolution, I'd say, of multiplayer in general, because one thing that I was thinking about all the time when all these games have been announced is that PvP is okay. I mean, one thing that's really demoralizing, though, is when you spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die. When you get those players that are just way better than you. But what's really cool about these kind of games, which is something that For Honor is going to obviously push quite strongly, is that you can actually contribute, like in Titanfall, say, to just like killing minions and things, while also being able to have a go at enemy players. So I kind of I like where this is headed, especially for Honor.
No, I completely agree with that. It's great because at least then if someone's not comfortable approaching another player, they have other objectives that can lead to just as much fun as they would do facing another actual opponent. So anything you do is going to end up helping towards the team's ultimate objective, and that's something that is a great balance and a great show for a lot of multiplayer games, is especially if it's a role-based or class-based game, is the fact that everyone has their own roles and everyone can adapt their own unique playing styles to fit the battlefield.
Yeah, and it's what they've shown at the moment. There's only been Dominion mode, which is it capture and control, I guess you could call it. It's not King of the Hill. King of the Hill is where you've got like one specific location you all have to fight over it. This one's like specific points scattered around the map that you have to fight to control and such, which then builds up like a reinforcement bar, which then locks off their troops that can come in supposedly. But they haven't shown much. But what has been shown so far has been really, really cool and quite epic as well. I mean, the one thing that's kind of made me worried a little bit is that the map seemed quite small. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I mean, it was like a castle map at the moment, but it seems quite enclosed. I mean, maybe that's the case to the fact that there's only 4v4.
Actually, watching the gameplay footage, I don't think it is that small. Though the actual main kind of battleground itself looks quite tight in that, which will make for a more kind of in-depth experience. There's lots of side routes, you've got lots of ladders, towers, using that word again, verticality. Verticality, ching. It's just, there's a lot more to do in that kind of environment, and yeah, so you can... You know, we're talking like Helm's Deep style. You know, leading your troops up the side ramp whilst other people are focused on on a bigger, larger battle, so you can ram them from the side. So I think the maps themselves, I think they're actually showing a lot of promise, though this is pre-alpha at the moment.
And I didn't see, generally when you see these pre-alpha bits of footage, there's generally some kind of weird glitch that goes on or animation bug. But to be honest, it looked really solid. Like, everything looks so smooth. The frame rate was fantastic for the amount of enemies on screen. Highly detailed. I mean, it's one of the prettiest multiplayer games I've seen in quite a while. Because generally when I'd say it's kind of like, it was on the level, say, of quality of, say, The Witcher 3, but multiplayer. So, because when you play multiplayer games, there's generally, like, say with Call of Duty, you have the really good-looking campaign, but then they drop that quality just a little bit, just to compensate for all these people jumping around the screen, shooting each other. But this seems just to stay so solid. Another good example as well is Watch Dogs. Like, the story mode in that had really good visual quality, but the multiplayer looked like GTA 4, like, level graphics.
You didn't see me roll my eyes when you mentioned Watch Dogs.
Okay, we all know it already had like a bit of a visual downgrade, but this one, at the same time, it's kind of that thing, it's just really cool now that games are getting to this point where, just like For Honor, where the visuals now stay just like the story, the presentation is always there, no matter the mode that you switch to, and I really like that.
Do you know what this actually reminds me of a lot, especially when you get into the depth of it? The colour palette, the scheme, and the actual combat with the enemies. It's almost like Shadow of Mordor, but alongside the enemies, you've got actual players to contest with as well. I've only just actually realised that. It is so very similar. But you're right, this is an Ubisoft game. Now, Ubisoft haven't had the best history in the last year, and they thought they'd humorously address that in the pre-press conference by doing a mean tweets edition. But they came across a little smug when they did it. But this game itself, I had no idea it existed. I had no interest in it. And if they'd have just showed like just a general trailer, I would have been like, okay, that looks alright. A lot of what has sold this to me is the creative director. Now, this guy is infectious. It says a lot about how passion can really drive a project. So, Jason Vanderberg, he just...
No offense to him. Initially, I actually thought he might potentially be either a maniacal villain or high. Because he was, like, really excited to show this.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to dominate the world of it. So he's like, just you wait. Kind of, but cackling at everybody in the crowd.
Well, this is literally... The guy came out. So, they show the CG trailer. It looks impressive. We're not sure what's going on. We're jumping through time. The most metal-looking guy walks out onto stage, big beard.
Yeah.
He's got a cane in his hand, and he's got rings on and that. And he comes out and you might as well just say, just lock up your daughters. He's going pillaging tonight.
Scared.
He brought such a passion to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And he really sold the product. And there's something that, compared to a lot of the other conferences and developers coming going, oh, this is our game, this is this. I'm looking at you, EA businessmen. There's no heart or soul. But in this, he's like, really, you want to go and sort people, you want to slash people up and you want to rampage and just get gritty.
He just jumps on and goes, I'm going to stab you and you're going to enjoy it.
I wouldn't have been surprised. I thought as soon as the conference ended, he's going to go down 10 bottles of whiskey, bang 20 supermodels on a bearskin rug. This is the kind of guy we're talking about here.
And he does that daily as soon as he But with the... One thing we haven't mentioned is the combat itself. Now, as you were saying with the initial CGI trailer that they showed at the beginning, what was your first impression? What did you think the game might have been? Because I was sat with my girlfriend, I was watching, I was going, Deadliest Warrior? So what are they doing showing Deadliest Warrior, a game, at a Ubisoft conference? And so... I was really surprised that they're doing something... I mean, even though we mentioned Titanfall and MOBAs and stuff that have been kind of put into this multiplayer kind of theme now as well, it's also got in its combat a little bit of Infinity Blade to it as well, do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot, especially with the... there's a lot of character locking, especially when you get down to the PvP sections. You literally camera lock and you're almost... ignoring everything else on the battle. It's just
dual mode.
Yeah, exactly. You just put into that really tight, tense experience when you're trying to outsmart that single person whilst there's people flying across the battlefield. it looks so tight for a game that's in pre-alpha. This game,
exactly,
by all rights, this game should be jagged and broken, but it has shown so much polish already.
You know why as well? I bet it's because they probably said, we do not want to show anything yet. Just don't interrupt us while we're making this game. And just because they've been left alone to do it, they've been able to just succeed in having this really strong introduction at the press conference. And it just shines. The combat just looks so tight and fluid for what you have to do in it. And I just want to play it. It's a shame that they haven't brought like a demo or something, or a beta. Beta seems to be like a really addictive thing to mention at this E3, but it's a shame they didn't announce like something just to play now. I'm just dying to have a go.
Not yet, but I do know that if you go to the official website for onagame.com,
which I instantly did on my
straight
phone
away, before the press conference had ended, you put a console preference, you list your interest. And then the most difficult decision, which this is something we haven't seen in it, the factions. Now, the actual video that we saw was classic medieval knights. I know that there was a bit more in the CG trailer before, but the actual gameplay demo that they're showing, it's classic medieval knights fighting on a battlefield. But then it comes up with these other options on there. So you've got Vikings, and you've got samurai as well, and that opens just such a vast potential of weaponry and different ways to approach things as well. You know, bringing about that, I'd love to see that, the whole shogunate from old fighting on a massive battlefield in the same kind of scale that the rest of it is. It's not something that we've seen before, apart from the likes of real-time strategy games like the Total War series.
I was going to say, actually, it feels like Total War, but when you're actually in the thick of it. Like kind of like, say, the evolution. Did you ever play Spartan Total Warrior?
Yes.
It was called.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's kind of like where that game has now gone into this. It's like a complete jump, like complete assumption. But it kind of has that feel to it where you're in the thick of it, of what you'd expect these little simulations in the Total War games would be like if it was like, down and gritty and one-to-one. It really has that kind of like oomph to it.
What I'd really like to know is there going to be a potential for crossing over generations? Like I very much
I don't want there to be.
See, I doubt it, but that may be a deciding factor, because if it turns out
Musket Man jumps in.
Yeah. I mean, if it turns out you've got those three different factions, so you've got the Knights, you've got the Vikings, and you've got the Samurai. Yep. Now, I've got this nagging feeling that it's going to be a case of it's going to come out, and then it's going to be a case of, these people just like, you know what? Forget what I'm saying. Just checking out the footage again. The Knights are fighting Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
No, I hadn't clocked on that at all. Wow, I obviously don't.
You didn't notice that they were fighting samurai?
No. I was so swept up in the action. I was just like,
you thought they were knights.
I just thought, they're just knights in slightly red armor.
This is the thing, though, because if you look at all the knights and the samurai that are fighting each other, they all look rather samey. So even though there are three different factions, it does make me worry a little bit. And this is something that's been going on with a lot of franchises that have gone multiplayer focused, is that there's going to be very little content. Because again, there's like one map, you got one mode. It seems to go over quite quickly as well from the time. I mean, they did skip ahead a little bit in the gameplay video, but I mean, hopefully they will be like some more classes and things that you can play around with within those factions, and it isn't just sword v sword, or the Vikings just having an axe or something. Maybe there'll be like an archer class.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be the concerning thing, though. It's ultimately going to be the case of, is it going to be are they just reskins, or have they got their own kind of USPs at the end of the day? Is there something that's going to be different, and how do you balance three of the biggest factions across time, so kind of synonymous with massive open battles and things like that? How do you balance that across them? They've got so many hundreds of years separating, thousands in some cases. It's just I'm so excited about it, but you're right, it does open the possibility for additional classes. I mean, you've got knights, you've got Vikings, you've got samurai. Why not open that up? Eventually I could see them expanding this if they're going to support it for a long time. Add in the Romans to it.
Totally.
Add in the Romans. Add in a kind of Attila
Just something I noticed as well. Now, this is just jumping ahead.
No, that's
but
fine.
the samurai, you may notice that this would be so exciting if they did it, though. I don't think they ever will. But the samurai guy has a red samurai sword, like katana. How cool would it be? Now, just hold your breath for this.
Okay.
What if they put Star Wars Jedi battles in this? Think about it.
So
how cool would that be? Jedi vs Sith DLC.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see the day of EA working with Ubisoft, eh?
I am so... there is that. But at the same time, it's so... Just when I saw that just then, I just thought that would be so cool. But, again, this whole worry about, there's going to be this potential lackluster content maybe, but... from what they've said, now you were mentioning things like the classes maybe having like different stats and such, and how they're going to balance that. They did mention that the samurai do less damage but are faster on their feet, while the knights are a lot slower but do more damage. Or maybe they're just more all-arounders. I'm quite curious to see how the Vikings work. But again, with that, you could have things like pikemen, I guess, but it seems that how they've done this whole Infinity Blade parry system and such, it's very sword based.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you'd get like other classes to even work within that. I mean, it must be quite tricky unless you had like somehow balance it to work all the same. I don't know. It's a lot of it is up to assumption at the moment. A lot of it is up to assumption. There is also a thing as well that they've shown, which is feats, where if you, say, kill a lot of people, you get these little stars above your head. So there's one guy that gets, like, 3 kills and 3 stars become above his head. And he unlocks, like, special abilities that he can use within the fights. So then at some point he can, like, call down a rain of fire arrows and use those against either the NPCs or to, like, separate 2 players so that he can focus on one instead of being completely ganked. So there's quite a lot of potential stuff. But you'll be quite curious to see just how deep it goes. I mean, what kind of things do you hope potentially to see if they, from what you've seen, how they could take it a little bit further, maybe?
Mounts.
Mount, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I hold. Yeah, if we can open this up a bit onto a wider battlefield, if we can have them charging at each other on horseback, just have a specific game mode, just do open field combat. Last man standing. So in the end, everyone's wiped out. There's bodies everywhere. There's poor unfortunate horses have met their demise, and then in the middle just 2 lone people, one from each side, stroll across the decimated battlefield for a one-on-one fight.
And it would work as well, because say if they did bring in like pikemen and stuff, you could actually do that where it's like cavalry would be really good against infantry, but then you could have like the pikemen that could end up like been really good against like you could have that thing where you've seen in war movies where they stick the spear into the ground and the horse gets stuck on it and it throws the player. That would be just awesome. They have to have like a one-on-one duel. There's some real potential in this game.
Yeah, just mechanisms, catapults, everything else. Have your own crew of catapult team and have everyone else going in at the same time, but you're manning it and aiming the catapult whilst this is going on, or you're charging through whilst giant boulders fly at you. I would get so pumped for this game. I mean that's not even a confirmed thing. That's just a hope at this time. But the potential for expansion in this kind of title and what they've been looking at, colour me excited.
And as you were saying as well, things like if you could bring in, like you could have a like an escort VIP kind of thing where one player plays as, say, the Shogun, and then the other guy plays as King. I don't know what it would be for the other guy. But then, having that where you've got to try and protect the guy and you're all kind of like surrounding and guarding him and it's like a one life kind of thing, a last man standing. Oh, there's so much stuff you could do. And again, they've only shown one mode, so there is just so much that they could add to the concept and the execution of everything that they've just shown at the moment. It's going to be great. It's going to be so awesome. I mean, any kind of last thoughts about any kind of, like excitement or worry maybe for the game?
My only worry at the moment is player base. By that I don't mean I don't mean just the fact that everyone who plays it is going to be an idiot. But it's more for the fact that I really want this game to succeed.
The good thing is that the way that the game plays, you could easily put AI in there. I mean, it is like the dueling system, the AI could handle that, I'd assume. So if they do like a story mode or bots that has like different difficulty levels and such, it could work. I mean, so if the player base is never there, you've got something to go into at least. Like, that was one thing that Titanfall really suffered with, was that, say, the capture the flag mode, nobody plays the capture the flag mode anymore. And they didn't have, even though they've got like little bot NPC soldiers that you can fight against if there were actual players to play against, it would be great if there were actually just something to take over the players if they're not there. So if there isn't that player base, just having like an offline mode, like, say, if there is a story, that'd be great. I mean, just think of the potential there as well, of where that could go and what that could lead to. Like a crusade mode where you've got to go to these different locations, you know, like play as the knights, but then you've got to dominate like the entire faction of the samurai and go to Japan, you know?
Well, with the knights and that, it'd be quite easy to do that, to have, right, what knights do you want? Do you want the knights of this one, or do you want the Templars? You know, do you want to do that? That's a really good idea, actually, with the reskins and everything. And so we've still seen only a very tiny bit, and this is pre-alpha, so it's gonna it's gonna be evolving for quite some time. But I'm just watching this video again, and I'm just gobsmacked at how polished it is already. That's just a really
good.
I'm not very often left breathless by a game. But I'm just kind of stumped at the moment, and but going back to the player base thing, it's more for the fact that we're looking at, I suppose, the only one at the moment which is a multiplayer, almost medieval kind of one that's out is Chivalry, which the player base has completely fallen down on.
Has it? Because that game was really good. I mean, the thing with that kind of game is that it's very niche. Because you'd say people don't really... I mean, at the moment, it's very... Everyone wants to play as the gun-toting badass kind of thing. I mean, you don't generally think when you get home, I'm going to go play as a knight or a Viking, you know? I really want to play as one of those things. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the gaming community takes onto this kind of new theme, because you don't really see these kind of games at all. I mean, the last thing potentially was The Witcher, but that was very fantasy based.
You bring up a very good point, actually, and I think that's exactly why this game is drumming up a lot of excitement, because it's not a shooter. We're getting like freemium shooters left, right, and center at the moment. With like Dirty Bomb, you got Overwatch coming out as well. And just generally, I think maybe people are getting a bit bored of it, and I know I myself am as well. It takes a lot for a first-person shooter or a multiplayer shooter to actually keep me involved, to keep me there, because everyone's done it before, and some people have done it way better. It's refreshing. It is. It's
a breath of fresh air, basically. Just seeing something different. Something different indeed.
It is just so refreshing. It looks just to be really stable, really fluid as well. I think that's something that's going to do well for it, is its fluidity. That seamless kind of transition between fighting amongst the masses to just singling out an opponent. So it is refreshing, it's different, and people are looking for that unique gaming experience at the moment, something that no other developers are offering. Because unlike the other Ubisoft ones, you can guarantee this title's not going to be an open world exploration where you have to climb a tower to unlock more. Still waiting to see that.
It's not going to go Far Cry-esque.
No, I was still waiting to see the towers appear in Ghost Recon.
We'll definitely have to discuss that one as well in the future. But for my kind of curiosity, it is more down to the combat. I mean, one thing that... recently, for my own stuff, I reviewed God of War Ascension. And the multiplayer for that was initially really, really good. But then there's this whole thing now of that... Game companies really assume that the internet is better than it actually is, and that everybody has like the greatest internet connection, that there's not going to be any lag, that it's going to be like really smooth, and don't worry about it, yada yada yada. But that's got me a little bit worried because of these one-to-one moments where you're going to be thinking, I want to be my prime, I want to give it my all when I take this dude down and slice his head off. But there's that thing where I just hope, because this is probably like on a local network that they showed, I so hope that this is going to have really good netcode. And at the same time as well, having the combat where it's not spammy and it's not unpredictable. Because things with like God of War, it got to this point where people just knew how to like just start spamming attacks all over the place. So I hope that people don't just go into duel mode and start slashing all over, you know, and you just can't like stay with it, and you're like, slow down, dude, I want to have this epic like parry battle and stuff, and they just keep like chopping you up because they're just spamming slashes all over the place.
Yes.
So I hope it's actually what it shows, you know, it's slow, you have to take your time, you know, but at the same time it just looks so satisfying. So I hope it stays like that and it can't be abused and, you know, spammed. That's my only worry, along with that netcode as well, because I just want a really good, solid, smooth experience like they have shown at this demo.
Yeah, what we really need for something this extensive is dedicated servers.
Yeah.
And I really hope they do deliver on that one, because if it's peer-to-peer, it's going to be a mess. Because who on earth is going to be processing all that AI? We don't want another Daisy on our hands, do we?
Oh no, exactly.
But
you know, and especially when you tout such a mode as well, you know, if you're gonna put this much effort and this much money and this much energy into trying to sell something like this, at least, you know, back it up, walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk, you know? They have shown it now. They have shown a really awesome concept. They've got everybody excited. So now prove it, you know? Expand on it, show us more, and when it comes to release, don't make people regret it, you know? Don't make us die inside. We need... I just want it now, Tom. I'm shaking you. I want this game now, and I want to kill you in it.
Don't we all... Hold up. Wait, what?
Well, obviously we're going to duel against each other. I'm not going to be on the same team. I want to take you down.
Sounds like fighting talk to me.
Oh, definitely. We'll do it here. The Game Fanatics 1v1. I'm going to play Viking. I'm sorry, but what are you going to go for?
I'm going Samurai.
You're going Samurai. Viking's going to whoop your ass, son.
Unless if I choose to go Knight for Steam... You know, oh no, wait. Won't be Steam Workshop because it's Ubisoft. Hey, if they bring out a Solaire skin for the Knights...
okay.
That's me sold, you know. Praise the sun.
That would be a little bit of Dark Souls and such. It's actually, just one thing to know as well is, something that quite intrigued me was how the knight actually fights, because he kind of like, he uses his sword as an axe as well, so he kind of like turns it around and uses the blade as a handle. I never knew that knights and such did that with their weapons. It's quite cool that they must have done their research, so it's cool that they've got this like in-depth, you know, expansion of what, you know, you actually previously assumed of these kind of time, you know, like knights, samurai, and Vikings. You know, if they what the Vikings can do and such, like if this guy in his animation can do that, maybe the Vikings can throw their axes, or do we even know if they use axes? It could just all be swords again. So
you're right. All those specialists who are working on Deadliest Warrior, they're out of a job, so you know they've got to be employed somewhere. This is
the uber Deadliest Warrior. We'll call it.
Yeah, it really is. This is like the Deadliest Warrior. It's like Deadliest Warrior meets Total War, but with a more kind of Shadow of Mordor approach.
This really just makes you want to reinstall Total War. Play Total War. Oh, man. But anyway, thank you everybody for coming along and listening to this discussion. We've been talking about For Honor by Ubisoft. You can also check out more footage on their channel, on their site. Please look at this game. Please support it. It's going to be so cool. I bet it's going to be amazing. It's just got that feeling to it. Because you generally don't get that. This is the thing. You generally don't get that from a game on, from press footage. It's generally, there's a little bit of roughness to it, but it does look fantastic. It's been me, Josh, and Tom, and we look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.
Cheerio.